A couple of months ago, I picked up a red Komodo X. Unfortunately for me though, the price has just dropped. Hello, my name is Jonathan Palfrey. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I was going to do a different video this week, but when I saw this news that the red Komodo X has had a massive price reduction, I really felt like I needed to talk about it, especially because we picked one up just a couple of months ago. In this video, I'm going to talk about whether that was a mistake, should I have waited, not that I could have predicted this was coming, does this have an effect on the rest of the camera industry, and what does this mean for Red going forward? No matter how you look at it, no matter how you consider the situation, it is a bit of a sting to see that the camera that you had just purchased, it's still very new, barely been used, to suddenly see it much cheaper and more available than ever before. Well, that is frustrating. Now, don't get me wrong, it's great for anyone out there who doesn't already own one, and we'll get onto that later on about whether you should be picking one up. But it is frustrating when you purchase something like a big expensive purchase like that, which was a long-term thinking. I looked at it a year ago, I thought, nah, I can't really justify it. And that was really just down to that cost. If it had been this price back then, I probably would have got it way sooner, which is good news for everyone else out there now, but frustrating if you have just bought one in recent times. That said, despite the sting, it's not a problem. It isn't actually a problem. That's because of one important thing, and that's probably the biggest lesson I want to teach in this video, and that is don't invest in new expensive gear unless you know for sure it is going to make you more money ultimately. And I really want to emphasize that particular point because yes, you could say picking up a red a year earlier may have improved my cinematography, it may have improved my chances of getting certain jobs. But in reality, that wouldn't be the case. If I had picked up a red Komodo X, it would have been very nice. I would have got some great looking footage. And yes, maybe that show reel would have led somewhere. But let's be honest, what I was able to shoot on the Blackmagic 6K Pro, what I've been able to shoot on the FX3, they are great cameras that can produce amazing results if you know what you are doing. And certainly I don't think held me back from any potential jobs. That was really until last month where we had the opportunity for a big shoot and they did request that we shoot on the red Komodo X. I looked at the rental options out there and to be honest, it just made sense to pick one of these up. The cost of the rental would have been like half the cost of the camera even back then. So renting for a few weeks or just owning and getting to know the camera really well, it just made sense because as soon as you did a second shoot, the camera's literally paid off. And that's exactly what has happened. Since doing that shoot, we did a great job, the client is really happy, and we've been brought in on another shoot, which is actually happening right now, hence why I've got the box behind me and not the camera itself. That's proof where actually something like this can be a smart investment. We waited to buy the red Komodo X until the right moment. When that opportunity came up, that was the right time to then spend the money because it made sense financially rather than just some pipe dream that potentially this camera could get you into a future higher position. So that's why, despite the sting of the price drop, I'm not too frustrated by it. Because at the end of the day, that price difference here in the UK, it's about £3,000. Yeah, it is annoying that the camera that we just purchased only 2 months ago is now worth £3,000 less than it was. Well, we've made more than that on it. It is a tool at the end of the day. It's a tool to make money. And it has done exactly that already in its short lifespan with us. It's continuing to do so right now, and it will certainly continue to do so for the rest of this year into next year and hopefully many years to come. By that point, we won't even remember the fact that there was a price difference. In fact, looking at it right now, I'm almost tempted to pick up a second red Komodo X. Not because I think this is the greatest camera of all time and I want to switch everything across to it, but certainly it's tempting to have two matching cameras of this quality for certain shoots that require it. The shoot we're doing right now, we've had to hire another Komodo, so certainly this would have been a first case of actually that second camera, if it was at a lower price, would have made a lot of sense. So what does this mean for the rest of the camera industry? Because there are a lot of cameras now in a similar price bracket. We've got cameras like the C400 that's just about to come out. That's actually now slightly priced higher than the Komodo X. And you can definitely make strong arguments why that camera should be more expensive. It's got features that the X doesn't have. It's got grid autofocus, it's going to have triple base ISO, it can shoot compressed formats as well as RAW, which is great to see. It's a full frame sensor. So there's a lot of reasons why you can argue that that camera is better. However, the Komodo definitely has a name value to it. It has a recognition, and of course that red RAW is something special. The FX6 is another camera in that price bracket. A bit older of a camera, but still producing amazing results and holding its value incredibly well because of how good it is on so many different styles of shoots. It has all those extra features, as I mentioned, that the C400 has, but unfortunately it doesn't have internal RAW, and that is going to be a big argument of why the KX might be a better investment than an FX6 at this stage. Finally, what does this mean for Blackmagic? They're about to release the Pixis camera, we're still waiting on it, and that was a great buy. It still is a great buy, but it's going to be very hard to stop people being tempted going up to a red Komodo or Komodo X. The Komodo now has also had a price drop, and that makes it extremely close to the Pixis sort of price bracket. I think if you're considering the Pixis, you're probably now also considering a Komodo. And of course there are advantages with the Komodo. It's going to have that global shutter, and of course it's got that codec as well. Two really key unique features, not to mention the name value, that could really sway you away from Blackmagic. And that probably will be an issue for Blackmagic themselves, because despite making such great cameras, and I love the codec and I love the way they work, it is hard if you saw two cameras of a similar price and one is going to have a bigger name value and it's going to be much more compatible working with clients versus the other. Well, you're probably going to go with that one over the other. So what does this mean? Is everyone not going to buy all of these other cameras? Well, no, they all have different roles. They have different tool sets that can be an advantage or a disadvantage depending on the types of shoots that you're doing. For me, I wouldn't want to be shooting all the time on a red Komodo X. Without doubt, there are times where the C70 or the FX3 are much better options for us. If it's just a simple corporate interview, it's complete overkill to be shooting red RAW, and the huge file sizes and the battery life and the rigging, all those things are just unnecessary in so many situations. So there's definitely a reason for these other cameras, even if they are priced at very similar prices to the red Komodo X. That said, it does make the competition much, much tighter than ever before. I think definitely Sony and Canon are going to have to really rethink about future cameras and what they include in there. We definitely need to see RAW in a future Sony FX6 Mark II or whatever it ends up being called, because I think without it, people would start asking questions about whether it's a good buy, because all the competition right now is starting to include RAW internally. The final question to ask is, how does this affect Red? Does it change how future cameras are going to be priced? Does it change our perception of Red? Which I think is maybe the most important point here. When it comes to the pricing, maybe. We now know what they sort of see as the price of a camera of that level of quality, and maybe the Super 35 sensor, and maybe they were seeing that trying to sell a Super 35 sensor for over £10,000 or dollars is a bit of a tall ask. Maybe they were starting to see a drop in sales because of that, who knows? I don't think people were ever really questioning that. I don't think people were switching to other brands because of the lack of full frame, because there are still amazing features that the Red offers that just the other cameras can't give. That said, it does open up a position above the KX for a camera that can be cheaper than a Raptor, but at the same time offers something more than the Komodo X can. Honestly, it's hard to say what that would be. All I can think of is maybe a 6K full frame sensor. That would be nice to see. But otherwise, I think most people are going to be very satisfied with a KX, especially at the price. When it comes to the perception of the brand, that could take a bit of a hit. They have effectively cheapened the Red name by doing this. And I don't mean that as some sort of disgruntled Red owner now, no, not at all. What I mean by this is that, of course, more people are going to be able to buy this camera than ever before, which is absolutely awesome. I think that's brilliant. I think it's great. And actually, I do think in terms of the pricing of the Komodo X, I think this is actually more correct. This is the price it should have always been, considering of the upgrade that it is from the standard Komodo. It should have always been 2 or 3 grand more than the Komodo, not almost double in price. But in terms of the name value and whether it does cheapen it, there is a risk that if Komodos just become too common, they're just being used on all sorts of shoots, social media shoots, low budget shoots that really shouldn't have that camera on the set, because obviously the costs of it aren't being covered in the day rate of the videographer or the cinematographer there on set. Well, there is a problem there, because it does start then cheapening the brand overall, and then suddenly it will be much harder to justify higher fees for that kind of camera over the competition. Equally, for those that are perhaps using other camera brands like the FX6, they might be frustrated now thinking that they've got to compete with people turning up with a Komodo X as well. Whereas before they could justify it by saying, well, it's a more affordable camera, but it offers these other features. Now, I guess you could say it's going to be much more competitive in terms of why would you use one camera rig over another? And people might just want that Komodo X because it is seen and perceived as a better camera than the FX6, rightly or wrongly. In terms of should you pick up a Komodo X? Well, as I said at the beginning, it is really down to being sensible and looking at your financial investments in the gear that you buy. Don't just go out and buy a camera because you feel that if you buy it, suddenly it's going to open up a whole new world that you didn't have access before. That's never true. That is not the case at all. If you can produce great work with the camera you currently own, which I'm sure is probably an awesome camera, then the upgrade to a KX isn't going to suddenly open up a whole new world. Only invest in this camera if the jobs that you're going for require it. If it means you're saving on the rental costs and it just makes sense that the depreciation of that camera is going to be less than the cost of rental. In that case, it's an obvious one. Just buy it because then you can own it. You can always sell it at the end of the day. However, if you don't have the cash and you're really stretching yourself to buy this camera and you don't have the work coming in to justify it, then just don't buy it. Stick with the camera that you already own because it's going to be awesome and you can produce amazing results with it. I'd love to know your thoughts on the price drop of the Komodo X. Do you think this is a great opportunity to pick up one or pick up a second one if you already own one? Or are you concerned that the price is coming down and it is starting to compete with these other cameras in such a way that maybe it's going to get a little bit confused about what camera you should be investing in the future? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to know what you think. If you've enjoyed this video, then please like and subscribe as it massively helps me out. And thank you very much for watching. And while you're here, why not check out one of my other videos as well?